Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. A lot of big stories to get to. First of all, are we in a recession already? Are we heading towards a recession? The White House very much out there trying to parse and come up with their own alternative facts around the state of the economy. Also, as we have been previewing, the Fed set to raise interest rates. The expectation is they will probably lift it 75 basis points or 0.75%. There is an outside chance that they'll lift it 1 percentage point. Either way, this is an extraordinary move with major implications for you and for the economy. So we will break all of that down. Also, some new questions about whether the Murdochs and Fox News are turning on Trump.
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Big debate out there, so we'll read some of the tea leaves, see what they're up to. Also, yesterday, we brought you the news that Nord Stream 1, that critical pipeline bringing natural gas, in particular to Germany, had been turned back on. Now we're getting numbers about how much capacity.
It may be on, but not really.
Not at full blast.
Yeah.
So, and also a new deal just breaking this morning among EU member nations to curb their natural gas consumption. So we'll break all of that down for you. Also another insider trading scandal, this time with a former congressman. And we have, this is kind of a stunning development. Friend of the show, Glenn Greenwald, along with a lot of other figures, Tulsi Gabbard ran Paul Lula, the former president of Brazil, put on a blacklist in Ukraine of people who are "quote unquote" spreading Russian propaganda. It's completely insane, and it's part of a really disturbing trend in Ukraine of cracking down on any dissent. So bring that to you. We also have a first-time guest on the show, Jonathan Swan, who had a big scoop about the plans being laid for a second Trump term. But before we jump into the latest news about potential recession, we do have a couple of announcements.
Number one, you guys already know what I'm going to say. Live show. We got to sell those tickets, people. Let's put this up there on the screen. September 16th in Atlanta. Obviously, we're going to have a lot to discuss. It's going to be election season, part of a bigger midterm tour that Krystal and I are doing with many other friends of the show who will be making appearances across the country.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously going to drag Marshall and Kyle down
Of course. But we're still looking at some others. All right, it's going to be great. And listen, this tour, this is the first show. As we've said, we have to show people that we can sell these tickets. We'd really, really like to sell this one out as soon as possible, just to prove it to many other venues who we're speaking with, exactly how many tickets we can sell, booking, etc. I don't want to bring people too far in, but that is why we've been pushing it so hard, so we deeply appreciate it. Number two, also, as a reminder, our premium monthly subscribers, just if you could help out the show for financial planning purposes, we are offering a discount to upgrade to yearly. It is deeply appreciative on our parts. It really helps, as we said, financial planning as we're looking to hire and expand further out into the show. Just given everything with the economic situation, we thought it was best. And as such, we're offering those existing monthly subscribers the ability to upgrade. There is a link in your premium newsletter at the very, very top for you to do so. For the many of you who have already done so, we appreciate it so much. And they've been sending in such nice messages like, of course I can. If you can't afford it, no worries whatsoever. We totally get it, given what's happening with the economy right now. And so that's probably a good segue, actually, to what we should discuss, which is the Biden administration is facing down the barrel of a, quote, technical recession. And whenever you do such a thing, what do? You go, you know what? Let's just change the definition of recession. So that's what's happening. Let's put this up there on the screen. So Thursday, we are likely to see a GDP report that shows a second consecutive quarter of negative growth. Now, technically, that should be a recession. However, the Council of Economic Advisors, which is appointed by the White House and which provides supposed to be nonpartisan economic analysis to the executive branch, is now changing the definition ahead of that Thursday GDP report. And so Jackie Henrich, who is over at Fox News, points out very clearly that the White House release says, what is a recession? Oh, please tell us. While some maintain 2 consecutive quarters of falling real GDP constitute a recession, that is neither the official definition nor the way economists evaluate the state of the business cycle. Instead, both official determinations of recession and economist assessments are based on a holistic look at the data. Based on these data, it is unlikely the decline in the GDP of the first quarter of this year, even if followed by another GDP decline in the second quarter, indicates a recession. Well, there's a little bit of a problem with that. Let's go ahead and throw this next one, or let's go ahead actually and listen on CNN whenever the White House economic advisor is pressed for changing this definition. And then we'll also show you some historical stuff which outright proves that the White House is lying. Let's take a listen to the White House spin first.
What will be comments from some saying 2 quarters of negative growth in a row, that's a recession.
Right, and certainly in terms of the technical definition, it's not a recession. The technical definition considers a much broader spectrum of data points. But in practical terms, what matters to the American people is whether they have a little economic breathing room, they have more job opportunities, their wages are going up. That has been Joe Biden's focus since coming into office.
Yeah, so are any of those things happening? No, so it also is a recession. But as Michael Strain points out, let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Of the past 10 times that the U.S. economy has experienced 2 consecutive quarters of negative economic growth, how many times was a recession officially declared? 10. So 10 out of 10 times. Now look, I get that it's not great PR optics, but redefining definitions of recession is frankly, in my opinion, worse than saying, yeah, we're living through hard times, I'm doing everything I possibly can about it. I will give one counter defense, Krystal. I spoke with Joe Weisenthal, friend over at Bloomberg. Here's what he says. Every single post-World War II recession saw unemployment rise before it or during it. However, in the first half of 2022, we saw unemployment fall from 3.9 to 3.6. So that is the defense of like the White House position.
Yeah.
And, you know, Joe is not spinning. He's just giving you the facts of why this one is wonky. Fine, say that. Hey, this is a wonky recession. But redefining the term recession and really gaslighting people, also using criteria which clearly are negatively trending for all of the American people, on top of the fact that everybody know that nothing is working in American society, you're not fooling everybody.
Yeah.
It's such an insane move on their part.
Nominal wages may be rising, but of course, when you count inflation, everyone is getting a pay cut basically every week. So the idea that wages are going up, I mean, again, it's very gaslighting. And the bottom line is this isn't going to work. People know what's going on in their own lives. I just was looking, you know, earlier this month, there was a poll that found 58% of Americans already think the country is in a recession. So they don't need your like technical parsing definition to figure out what's going on in the economy. And I think politicians really err when they try to persuade people that things are going better than what they actually think and feel. I think Obama made this same mistake in his second term when he tried to sell the recovery as something that was really robust and really amazing when people were really still struggling. And it made him vulnerable to defeat if the Republicans had run anyone other than like a cartoon character like Monopoly, plutocratic villain. And so I think the Biden team throughout this period has consistently made this same mistake of trying to sell the unemployment numbers, trying to sell the nominal wage gains as this incredible recovery, and the media is just spinning and the economy is actually great, you just don't understand it. When people know that things are really tight for them, they know that, you know, the job market already, there's signs of significant deterioration that we're going to get to in a moment. You have new unemployment claims coming in higher, so you see that starting to ebb. Well, you already see massive impacts in terms of the housing market. So I was actually just reading an article about how upper middle class Americans, not that they're the most compelling or most sympathetic group, but they're really being squeezed right now too because they didn't benefit from the pandemic program, which were means tested, and now their stock portfolios, which made them feel like they had a lot of money, have all crashed. Their housing values, which also made them feel like they had a lot of money, are starting to crash. They recognize they can't sell into this market. If they did and tried to move somewhere else, they couldn't afford a new home. So you have people increasingly in their lives feeling like things are tight, like they can't afford what they could at the grocery store, like they're having to cut back. And the White House is like, technical parsing of whether or not it's a recession is not going to change their minds on that.
Yeah, and Janet Yellen, the Treasury Secretary, sticking to the same spin. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. She says the economy shows no signs of recession. And once again, this is BS because Janet Yellen should know better. Her background is as a technical economist. Her and her husband are both, I think her husband is a Nobel Prize in the field of economics. They're the ones who came up with this definition. And yet now they are saying you don't see any of the signs. A recession is a broad-based contraction that affects many sectors of the economy. We just don't have that. In the very same breath, she acknowledges the impact of high inflation numbers on Americans, specifically gas, food, and other economic problems. And the issue that I really have on this is that they are all over the place. Remember, it was not even 3 months ago. Joe Biden was standing in front of the port of Los Angeles telling us that we lived in the strongest economic recovery since World War II. Look, again, they're using technical definitions. They're like, oh, economy's gone, unemployment's 3.9. What does the unemployment rate matter if you cannot literally afford anything in your daily life? If you can't buy a car? I mean, even just recently, I was looking again especially with this Fed rate hike, which
Yeah.
is like we're about to talk about it. It's about to come down the pipe. That's going to raise the average car price to like $800 a month. That's not even including insurance and all the other attendant costs. And that's if you can buy a car. So the used car market is on fire. People are having real trouble taking out loans. Their credit card usage is sky high. We're seeing all sorts of insanity happen in the mortgage markets, in the loan markets. That's on top of have anyone been to a grocery store lately? It's crazy. Like you look at price of a pound of ground beef is going for like $8 and $9. And we've even seen a reduction, and this is again what really bothers me. People are making really material cutbacks in their daily lives. I told you about the booming YouTube channel about how to cook like a depression housewife. Like this is not good for Americans. Yeah, they literally have these old videos.
I have a lot of friends who could fill out that YouTube content. They're very effective at this.
This is grandma who has now died, but in 2013 did like a whole series with her grandson. She's like, here's how we used to cook in the Depression. And now her views are going like booming right now because people are like, oh, how do I make like a single Costco rotisserie chicken last for a week? We don't want the American people. And that's a terrible situation to be in. That leaves generational scars. No acknowledgement by the government. That's the single failure, I think, by the administration.
Yeah, I think that's right. You have to level with people. I mean, they know what's going on. They see it and feel it better than you do. I mean, we're talking about officials who aren't worried about their next paycheck. They're not worried about having to stretch a Costco chicken all week for their families. So the American people have a much better sense of what is really happening on the ground. There's another reason why people like Janet Yellen in particular would be interested in sort of spinning the numbers and pointing to, oh, we have these really great, low unemployment numbers, which is true, but does not even come close to telling the whole story of what's going on here. But if you have the economy already slipping into a recession, you can't have the Fed continuing to move forward with these incredibly drastic hawkish measures because, if you already have tipped things into a recession and you still have this high inflation, this proves the point that the Fed policy, the direction they're going in, is really not working and is actually just making things worse. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.